I've often wondered why I have such a love for film, why I feel compelled to be creative and leave my mark on the world. I love cinema, and I love to make films and videos here on YouTube. I've been making them since my late teens. I love the creative freedom of assembling a script, the editing process, and making something come together that people can look back on and enjoy. And maybe I do this because it's in my blood. You see, before I was born, my family owned a chain of cinemas in Dublin, the Apollo Cinema chain. The Apollo Cinema chain was owned by my great uncles Leo and George Kearns, brothers of my grandfather Cyril Senior Kearns. My father Cyril Junior and the rest of the family all worked and helped to run the Apollo in Walkinstown. The Walkinstown cinema was managed by a man named Tony Healy. There was 3 Apollos in total. There was one in Dundrum, another on Sundrive Road, and of course the one in Walkinstown. What you are looking at here is the last surviving piece of the Apollo cinema in Walkinstown. This is the cinema's movie splicer. A splicer, if you're not familiar, is a mechanical device that is used to connect different bits of film together. Think of it as an old school copy and paste. You see, usually a movie will come with a bunch of different reels of film. A projectionist's job was to cut and connect different parts of the film together and switch the projectors at the exact moment one reel ended and another began, all in real time while the movie was playing, not at all like it is today. It was essentially the beating heart of the Apollo, and that's why no cinema back in the day could be without one. Out of its decades of history, to my knowledge, this is the only surviving piece of that building. The Apollo in Walkinstown opened its doors on October 16th, 1953. For its time, it was state of the art, boasting the best of the best equipment. It had a 1,000-seat capacity and a modern designed interior and advanced cooling systems for changing seasons, which helped to set it apart from its competition. But most importantly was its location, mine and my dad's hometown of Dublin 12, Walkinstown. At the time, Walkinstown was a new and thriving suburb on the outskirts of Dublin. Beyond the Walkinstown roundabout is where Dublin City officially stopped and farmlands began. Places like Tala and beyond just hadn't been built up yet. The Apollo was smack bang in a prime location, starting its business at the peak of what's known as the golden age of Hollywood, the classic black and white era of cinema. Movies like Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane, It's a Wonderful Life, and so on. But the Apollo was about to enter one of the greatest eras of cinema, the New Hollywood era. The era of Alfred Hitchcock, Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Elvis, Bruce Lee, Marilyn Monroe and Sean Connery and the likes. It was the spaghetti western, cowboys versus Indians, James Bond era of film. Films like The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Dr. No, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Big Boss, The Getaway, and all shown in beautiful Technicolor. But the Apollo did more than just show movies. Sometimes they'd have musicians and variety acts come and perform. On its busiest nights, they'd put 2, even 3 people in a seat to accommodate the huge crowds that would show up. It was such a different time. There was no mobile phones, no internet, no TikTok or YouTube, and the community centre hadn't been built yet. Kids either went to school or played on the streets. Televisions weren't in everyone's homes just yet either. A lot of families who had them rented them. If people wanted to see something like a movie or a musician, if people wanted to be entertained, they went to the Apollo. It was, in my opinion, the cornerstone of the community. The Apollo began its business in the early 50s and had a great run of success right up until the mid 70s, and that's about the time the chain sadly started to go under. The competition was fierce and the market by this stage was saturated. There were so many cinemas to choose from. The Apollo was fighting an uphill battle against other cinemas, video rentals and video piracy. Coming into the 80s, television sets started to become more popular and affordable, as did home video players, which meant VHS and Betamax tapes could be played at home. So why go out, especially when video pirates were handing you the brand new releases at half the price? This was crippling the rest of the smaller cinema chains, but also the smaller video rentals as well. But the issue that was plaguing the cinema market the most was the producers themselves. You see, certain cinema chains were getting prioritised, while other chains were being left hanging. The most consumed films in Ireland were from the USA and the UK. The people who produced these films had agents working in Ireland, and they would rent the films out to the cinemas. In some cases, cinemas would also have to pay a percentage from their ticket sales back to these companies. The cinemas in the city centre always got priority, while cinemas further out were left to last. And since the Apollo was at the time on the edge of the city, they got hit bad. The These days the typical run of a film is about 2 months at most, and then it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD and all the various streaming sites. But back then a film could run for 6 months to a year, so the staff at the Apollo did their best to get people into the seats, which is why the Apollo and cinemas all around it would have variety acts and musicians. Dad would sometimes let people come in just to listen to the latest music releases, Bay City Rollers, John Lennon, Queen, and I'd like to believe he threw in a bit of Tin Lizzy and Led Zeppelin, especially since Phil in it himself went steady to the pictures and always got chocolate stains on his pants. And since good old Philo is from Crumlin, which is right beside Walkinstown, it's a well-known fact that he went to the Apollo multiple times, as well as any of the neighbouring cinemas. The Apollo would eventually close its doors around the mid-70s and become derelict. It was eventually demolished in the early 90s to make way for housing. This is what it looks like today. You wouldn't have known it was here, would you? They didn't name the street after it, there isn't even a plaque to commemorate this building, which is a shame because it had such a rich and wonderful history. It gave so much joy to the community, and sadly it only exists in the memories of the people who went there. But I don't want my family's legacy to fade away to nothing. There are some lovely comments on Facebook about the building and the memories people shared there, and one video on YouTube which gives the Apollo a very brief mention. But I think it deserves more than that, which is why I decided to put this video together. I did as much digging and research as I could, but sadly a lot of the family archives have been lost. So to fill in the missing gaps, here is an exclusive interview with my father, Cyril Kearns. Dad, it's very nice to have you here. There's a lot of missing pieces in the history of our family, and I've been working very hard on this project, and I'm happy that you're here to fill in the gaps. So I guess my first question is, what age did you start working at the Apollo?
Well, thanks, Richie. It's good to be here. The age I started working in the Apollo would have been 3 years of age.
3?
Yes.
Oh my God.
3 or 4 years of age. And what was I doing? I was an elf for Santa Claus.
No way.
Yeah, me and my sister Gert were 2 elves, and what we did was on the Saturday and Sunday, we would go in and we would take the presents of Santa Claus and give them to some of the children.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was worth a couple of bob pocket money for us.
Oh, nice one.
So that was only for a couple of weeks of Christmas, but it paid for toothpaste and some sweets.
Now, as you got older, what was like your first serious cinema role?
You mean by working in the cinema?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I worked in pretty much every aspect of the cinema. So first of all, I was an usher. So when someone didn't turn in or went sick or they were short of staff, I'd be the usher. I would direct people into their seats, and that was the first role I had.
Yeah.
After that, I used to check tickets on the door. So everyone got a ticket, you tore it in half, and in they went.
Nice.
After that, I did work in the cash room where you would take the money in and issue the tickets.
Oh, nice.
So that was on and off, and again, a couple of bob pocket money, and that was great. I'd like to say now it was really great to work there. The crowd that used to come down from Walkinstown, really great guys. It was a hard time for everyone.
Yeah.
Most people had big families, and at the weekend, they'd come down to the pictures and go in. Also, some of them hadn't got the money, so they used to do a bunk in down through one of the exits. So they'd have one guy who paid in, and you might have maybe 10 guys waiting outside. The doors would open and they'd all scurry in like mice and hide.
And would you be upset, or would you be like,
Not at all. Look, I was from Walkinstown. The guys hadn't got the money.
Yeah.
We knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Once there wasn't 50 or 100 trying to get in the door, we didn't mind a few coming in, you know. It was fun.
Well, that's good. And, you know, like people like that will come back when they do have money as well.
No, absolutely. You know? And they did, yeah.
So, tell me about some of the people you worked with at the cinema. What were they like?
Okay, they were pretty good. Knew their stuff. Some of them thought they were cowboys.
Yeah.
We had one man called, can I mention his name? Or?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay, Christy Gibson. They used to call him Baldy.
Yeah?
Yeah, and he was from Drimna. And he worked there for a long time. He usually did the door and turned the tickets because he didn't take any nonsense, if you know what I mean, with the guys coming in. And they all knew him as Baldy. And actually, it was an interesting fact when he went to retire.
Yeah.
He tried to claim an extra 10 years, what would you call it, redundancy?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because he lied about his age. And, and instead of being whatever it was, 66, he was 76.
Oh, man.
Yeah. After the Apollo, he did go and he worked in the Olympia Theatre.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, as an usher there. And he probably lied about his age again. You'd some good characters there. They knew their job.
Yeah.
They all wore uniforms, red uniforms with brass buttons on them.
The classic cinema.
The classic cinema, yeah. I'm sorry I haven't got pictures of that. You know, there was some around, but I don't know where they went.
Yeah, look, some things get lost with time.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So, as we all know, George and Leo created the Apollo Cinema chain.
Yes.
And no doubt they must have been fantastic businessmen. But what were they like on a personal level?
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good people, absolutely. Yeah. You know, Leo, as you say, a good business person. Leo decided that he would have 2 feature films instead of 1.
Yeah.
So whatever you were paying to get in, I forget how much it was, just say it was 2 bob.
Wow,
yeah.
2.
Yeah. You get 2 films, 2 feature films. So that was good value.
That was good value.
Yeah, it was, and that was good. George the same. George was pretty good, and I remember as a kid going over. You know the way you'd visit on a day, maybe Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
He'd always give you a couple of bob, you know.
That was a good uncle.
Yeah, which was great. Yeah.
So, throughout the years, the Apollo did more than just show films. From what I've been told, certain musicians and variety acts would come and perform shows. Can you remember any shows that stood out to you the most?
Oh, well, yeah, they used to have a sobriety show, and they would have various acts on.
Sobriety show, like Prohibition?
Well, it was called a sobriety show, because obviously they didn't sell drink.
Yeah.
But I do remember one of the neighbours, 2 of the neighbours actually, one of the one of the shows, if you could drink a yard of Guinness, they'd time you. Okay? So this was a glass ball at the end with a long tube, and they'd fill it full of Guinness. I don't know how much was in it.
Oh, God.
But they used to do that. But the main one that stood out for me was when Kid Carson came over. He was a real cowboy.
Yeah.
And he came over, and what he did was he brought a rifle and guns with him. And
rifle and guns?
A rifle and guns, real rifle and guns. And on the stage, he put 2 steel, what would you call it? Two steel things to stop the bullets.
Oh yeah, like metal plates.
Metal plates, yeah, to stop the bullets, right? And he got one of the ushers to put balloons on his head. And he would stand about 100 yards away, and he'd shoot the bullets over about 600 kids. How is that for health and safety?
That's wild.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone like, ooh, ah.
Yeah, everyone jumping up when he shot a bullet.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was great. Yeah. Now that was really good. You wouldn't get away with it today,
Oh,
of
God,
course.
no.
No, no,
There's
no,
so
no,
many
no.
rules and
Yeah,
everything. Like,
yeah.
you
That
need a
would.
permit for fireworks these days. So.
Yeah.
I'd say that was very exciting for
I
the
don't,
era
it,
that
it
came.
was because they used to show a lot of cowboy films,
Yeah.
as you know, and certainly Clint Eastwood started off with the good, the bad, the ugly, fistful of dollars, all this kind of stuff. So all the kids were basically wannabe cowboys, you know. So
Yeah.
Kid Carson coming over and shooting real live ammunition. I know, it's so funny.
Wild stuff.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, you had Roger Whittaker came over. He was very big at the time. He had a lot of shows.
And would you ever get starstruck? Would you ever go, oh my God, Kit Carson's in there?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And he wore all his cowboy gear and met
Never dropped character at all.
No, but that's what he was. He was a real cowboy, the original Kid Carson. And from America, I don't know where in America, but yeah, he was good. And
Wild West.
The Wild West is right, because he'd stand outside and meet all the kids and everything else, you know. So yeah, that was really good. All right, yeah.
Nice. So like throughout the years, you know, the Apollo lived through a few different eras of cinema. Out of all
Yeah.
the iconic films the Apollo premiered over its lifetime, can you name any that stood out to you the most and why?
Oh yeah, look, it had to be, you know, there was two actors, Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh man, that was really good, really good, and his character was really good. Fistful of Dollars, all the ones he did. Actually, I think Leo got the franchise for them films, because the main group didn't want them, and Leo took them.
Really?
Yeah, he did indeed.
That's wild.
Yeah, and actually, I was in Leo's house once, and there was a picture of Clint Eastwood on the wall saying, "Thanks very much, Leo, for all your help."
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought that was real. I said to him, "Is that for real?" He says, "Yeah." He says, I took the franchise for all them films. Okay, so the next one would have been Bruce Lee. Oh man, that was just awesome, you know.
Did you get to show Bruce Lee's last film, Enter the Dragon?
I don't remember whether I did or not. We certainly showed all the early ones,
Nice.
and they were pretty good. Actually, there was one where, again, the crowd from Walkinstown, great guys, great crack, and we were watching one of the films, and one of the Chinese guys' name was One Shoe.
Yeah.
And from one side of the cinema, one of the guys shouted up, "Hey, One Shoe!" And then a guy at the far side of the cinema said, "Yes, what do you want?" He says, "What happened to the other one?" And the cinema went into convulsions, you know, just a bit of crack, you know.
Yeah. Everyone coming out kung fu fighting after the end of
Oh,
it.
absolutely, no doubt about it, yeah.
How important was the Apollo to the Walkinstown community?
Oh, yeah, it was very, very important. As I said, look, nobody had any money in them days. Things was very tight. The woman stayed at home with the kids. A lot of the houses had a lot of kids, and the father went to work.
Yeah.
And there was always a bit of a shortage of money. Now, the guys themselves, if they could get a part-time job or whatever, they would work. But things was very hard in them days. The crowd themselves was great. They were great guys, always looking towards the future and being happy and having the crack and all that kind of thing, you know.
Well, was there a sense of community in Walkinstown? Did everyone get
Oh yeah, no,
help each other and stuff?
absolutely, yeah. All the guys and girls, yeah. And even from Crumlin, it was the same.
Yeah.
They used to come up as well for the matinees and even the nighttime films. And the same thing there. It was just hard times.
Yeah.
Things did get better, all right, but not in them days.
And would you say that there's still that same level of community now, or is it different?
I think it's a lot different now.
Yeah.
I do think it's a lot different. yeah, you wouldn't have that sense of community. Everyone knew everyone,
Yeah.
and they all stuck together and, did their football or whatever they had. I mean, them days we didn't even have swimming pools, so
Yeah.
maybe some GAA, that kind of thing. But the main attraction, I think, was the Apollo Cinema at the weekend.
Yeah.
Because in them days, they didn't drink. If they did, it wasn't much anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
And no, that was pretty good, yeah.
So that when I was researching this documentary, I came upon an interesting piece of information.
Yeah.
The agents who were renting out the films, a lot of the smaller chains
Yeah.
weren't getting priority. It was more the cinemas, say, in town and stuff. Do you think this contributed to the Apollo going under?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, there was A, B and C houses,
Yes.
or A and B houses. The A houses got the first run films.
Yes.
The B houses got them after they were shown in town.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Leo always put 2 feature films on,
Yeah.
to give you a bit of a bargain. And, a lot of the people waited till they came to the Apollo.
What rank was Apollo? Was it a C cinema?
I'm not sure. I don't know whether it was A, B and C or A and B.
Yes.
But certainly we were the lower one down.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, near the end of the Apollo's run, it's fair to say that the market was saturated with other cinemas. And by this time, video rentals and people pirating the latest releases,
Yeah.
didn't help. Can you tell me in your own words why you think the Apollo eventually ran out of business?
Well, I think, what happened was you had coloured televisions came in,
Yes.
and you got more channels to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And also then, as you say, later on, the videos came out.
Yeah.
But they had another option. And then also, people was growing up and they were going to work or going to school or going to college and maybe working. So if they wanted to watch something, they could go home.
Yeah.
So, okay, the Apollo held a lot of people. Now, they still came to the Apollo, but a lot less.
Yeah.
So at this stage, I was working in what they call the box, where it's the projection room.
Yes.
So, I used to run the films, and that's what the splicer is about. As you rightly said,
Yeah.
you had to rewind the films, wind them, cut and splice them back together.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
So, Dad, out of all the things you saved from the cinema,
Yeah.
why the splicer?
Well, this is the splicer, and you put the film in each side, you put it down, you put this across, and then put some glue on it and join them.
Ah, okay.
Okay?
You need the glue as well. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
you need the glue, and then you could leave it there till it dried, and now you're connected, then you rewound it back onto the thing.
And did you ever, like in the movie Fight Club, did you ever decide, hey, let's put a sneaky picture in here? Or
I did actually.
yeah?
Yeah, I did. It was Ben-Hur,
Yeah.
and there was me and another guy who worked in the box. His name is PJ Redmond.
Yeah.
And between the two of us, what happened was we used to show advertisements as well, and that was also on film.
Yeah.
So, now I was 17
Oh,
at the time, okay?
Yeah.
So what we both did was, there was an advertisement for Timex watch,
Yes.
and it looked like a Roman thing. So what we did was we cut a second or two out of the advertisement and joined it on to Ben-Hur. So when we were showing the film, you would see a Timex watch for a couple of seconds. Some people would cop it, other people wouldn't. And because this was only one copy of Ben-Hur, there could have been, I don't know, maybe 20 other copies.
Yeah.
It became an urban myth because it wasn't on the 20 copies, it was only on one.
Yeah.
And we also did that with a Ferrari. There was a picture of a Ferrari as well, like in a Roman setting.
Yeah.
And we had put that in as well. So, yeah, we were very bold to do that, but it was a bit of crack, you know?
That's fairly innocent, really.
Yeah, but if we were caught, it wouldn't be that innocent, you know
never
what I
got
mean?
caught.
Never got caught.
Until now.
Until now, yeah.
The urban myth has been
Yeah,
debunked.
yeah, yeah.
So, can you remember the last couple of days of the Apollo? Do you remember it closing? What were your thoughts and feelings, I suppose?
Well, what I did was I tried to get the local crowd in early.
Yes.
To keep them coming. So to offer them something, I used to open the doors an hour before the pictures, where they could all come in and congregate, and I'd play music.
Yeah. So
the only option you had in them days was records.
Yes.
So whatever records we had, I played. One of them was Jesus Christ Superstar, and whatever other records we had, I'd play them for an hour, and then they'd have a chat and all the rest.
But that's cool though, because I mean you wouldn't get that with like corporate cinemas today. You wouldn't.
No, but corporate cinemas don't need it, and when the revival of the cinemas came, it came as separate small cinemas. So you have the multi-chain with 200 seaters, maybe 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get the crowd nowadays to fill 1,000 seater.
It's sad.
Yeah, well, maybe the Savoy. I don't know how many the Savoy holds. I think that's a few cinemas now as well. That used to be one big cinema.
Yeah. A few years ago, its upstairs would have different cinemas.
Yeah.
And then we still had like this main room.
Okay, yeah.
They tore it down a few years ago and they replaced it with a few more.
Yeah.
So that throughout the decades,
yeah,
the cinema closed in 75.
Yeah.
Was it used for anything else for the next couple of years, or did it remain closed? You said something about pirate radio or something.
Yeah, that's right. Upstairs in the box or the projection room, there was a pirate radio station. They rented that out.
Yeah.
Other than that, the cinema was closed. I think they did open it up as a market. That didn't work. And eventually they turned it into a store for intervention beef. Okay. So it turned it into a big freezer, and eventually then it was sold, and they built houses on it then. Yeah.
And seeing them houses built, and not even naming the street after Apollo or Leo or anything, did that make you mad?
Not really. No, I mean it was a business.
Yeah. Business
people take risks. They were making money out of it.
Yeah.
But they were also looking after the community as well, I think.
Yeah.
And I suppose there should have been something there since it was so important, I think, to the community at the time, both Crumlin, Drimna and Walkinstown. On a Saturday and Sunday they had a matinee, and all the kids from around would come on. There was you could have had 1,000 kids in there.
Yeah.
And before we opened the doors after the film finished, they'd be all pretending to ride horses, and as soon as the doors would open, they were gone. I know it was good. It was good. Yeah.
I suppose my final question is, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in pursuing cinema, directing, or even acting in the film industry?
Well, it's a tough business. Certainly, you would want to look around and make sure you have an area with enough people in it. And I'm sure out around the likes of Blanchestown and Tala and places like that, although there is one in Tala, there is a multiplex in Blanche.
Yeah.
But again, if you were to open a cinema, it'd want to be 100, 200 seater with maybe 3 of them. Yeah. So you have the choice of 3 films to attract the crowd. I don't know, it could be very difficult, all right. It might and it might not work. Mm-hmm. But again, business people take a risk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, certainly. And again, going back to the Apollo, among the crowd, you asked me about actors. There was a lot of actors went to the Apollo.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they're still going. I'm not going to mention any names.
Well, I do have one question. Phil in it did go, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he wouldn't have popped around anyway.
There's no reason why he wouldn't. Now he could have actually practiced in the Apollo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could well have done, because I think he knew my cousin John Kearns, who was a bass player.
Yes.
And in them days, they lived fairly close to one another, as far as I know. They knew one another. So did Brian Downey. I know they did practice in one of the cinemas, but I couldn't be 100% what it is, the Apollo. It's gone back a long time, you know.
Well, Dad, you've certainly filled in a lot of the missing gaps that
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I'm really grateful that you gave this interview to me.
You're more than welcome. I'm glad to be here at my age.
I'm glad you're here as well. For God's sake. So yeah.
Yeah, well, good luck with it. And if I come up with anything else, I'll certainly let you know. I just have one thing before I go.
Yeah.
That wasn't the only piece that I saved.
What else did you say?
Okay. Yeah, you're going to love this.
All right.
Going to love this. Fire extinguisher.
No.
How is that for health and safety? I mean, what could you put out with that? a packet of cigarettes?
Well, you know, when you think about it, it's small, it's compact. If there's a fire, it's easy to move around. But yeah, I'm trying to justify it, but like,
I think that's going way back.
it definitely looks like it's from the time. It
Yeah,
definitely does.
I think it was actually before that. I think it might have come off maybe one of the buses, because years ago George and Leo used to own buses.
Oh, yeah?
It's going way back, yeah. And I think that's that old. But again, it's a nice souvenir. I'm not sure how much for it would put out, but look, that was straight out of the Apollo. It stood in the Apollo since it was open. So I took these two items because they represented, what you needed to run films with. It was your splicer. And just because purely this was supposed to be a fire extinguisher.
And, you know, if you could,
Yeah.
do you think they belong in a museum for people to look at?
Definitely, yeah. I think so, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something. It's the remains of the Apollo Cinema. There was, I used to do, I remember when it closed. I sort of do, and there used to be paintings in the foyer.
Oh, yeah?
And a couple of the guys decided, it's closing, I like that one and that one and that one. And I came out and looked, and they were missing off the wall. In fairness to them, they left 3 or 4.
That all.
I don't know where they went. Maybe one of my sisters has them. I don't know. But yeah.
Everyone sort of took a piece, I guess.
Well, there wasn't much to take. I mean, the seats were screwed down, you know.
The old not nailed down trick.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, because of that, these 2 items survived.
Yeah, it did. All right. Yeah.
If no one took anything, it probably would have all ended up in a landfill. It's sad to say.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, Dad, thanks very much for this.
Okay, you're welcome.
And I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay. I hope you do well with it.
All right.
Thanks,
very
son.
much.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Right.